Financial wellness. Reach out to them for advice at 855-DON-GINO. And now back to your hosts, Don Getling and Gino Franti.
Well, happy hot Saturday from Don Getling and Gino Franti on the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show, right on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS, where we share with you what you need to know, want to know, and should know about real estate, finance, your community, and so much more now for over 6 years. In fact, we'd love you to join us by going to donandgino.com, DONANDGINO.com, and click on the live streaming button, and you can join us right here at the Vault Media Studios, right here at Skyline Home Loans. You can see our great guest, backed by popular demand, Mr. Myles. He's with Comfort Keeper in-home care, and he's going to share some great information. And, of course, my cohort of crime, Mr. Gino Franti.
Yeah, every once in a while I take a week off, right, Don? You know, I slip away for a little bit. No, but it's good. And, you know, I'm looking at this, and every time we have Myles on, it's close to home, right? Like we were talking about just before the show. I've got stuff like this going on at home, you know, with my grandmother. So we always talk about really interesting stuff, and I have some personal opinions about it and how important it is and how nice it would be to have someone like Myles take care of it. But, you know, not every family lets that happen. Right. Yeah, there's some interesting dynamics most of the time.
No doubt. So if you recognize that voice, it's because he has his own radio show right here on AM 1220 KHTS as well. But he's our chosen professional for in-home care, Mr. Myles McNamara with Comfort Keepers in-home care. How long have you guys been out here in this valley now?
We had our 16th anniversary this month.
Nice.
Very cool. Yeah. And you guys have been growing and helping more. But what's really cool is I've been to your facility. I see all the training you guys do. You have a whole training room. I mean, it's not like you guys kind of go, yeah, if you wing it, if you need to figure out how to help somebody up out of bed or carry them or take them to the car, you just wing it. No, you guys actually have all kinds of training for, well, every facet, which is really cool. I mean, a lot of times, remember, this is your parents in most cases that you want to make sure they're being taken care of correctly, because I'm sure we've all heard horror stories. I know you've probably heard plenty of them.
And what you're referring to is our Caregiver Skills Lab, which before we send our caregivers out to the home, all of our caregivers have to go through there and hands-on training and stuff. But what's more important, and we've thrown this out there a lot in the past, and we've had some people take advantage of it, is we, as a community service, really open that up to the community, because there's a lot of family caregivers out there who are caring for loved ones, and nobody's really trained them how to do that. They're just told by the hospital, you know, mom's going to need more care when she comes home, or whatever, and all of a sudden now they're into the world of doing transfers and standby assist and possibly occupied bed changes and all these things that nobody trains a family member how to be a caregiver, and you can injure yourself and or your loved one. So, you know, anybody who wants to come by, and you don't have to be on service with Comfort Keepers, just come on out. We'll take you to our Caregiver Skills Lab. We have a hospital bed. We have Grandma Chase in there.
Oh, that's right.
We've got all the tools that you would need to properly care for a loved one in the home.
Right down Lyons Avenue.
Yeah, right down on Lyons Avenue next to the legendary Docks Inn.
We all know where it is now.
Yeah, exactly.
Never been there. Nobody who goes to the Docks Inn has ever been there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what's good about it. You just kind of look at each other, give each other the nod. Yeah, I wasn't here either.
Whatever happens at Docks stays at Docks.
Exactly. It needs to.
One thing that's important that you mentioned actually before we went on air, Gino, is the family dynamics, and I know what one of the topics we'll talk about today is the talk and being proactive rather than reactive, and we all should sit down with our aging loved ones and let them create the roadmap for us of what they want to happen at certain milestones of this journey that we call aging. But before you have the talk, and you mentioned 3 brothers, and you know, and I always sort of like tell families, it's kind of like if you take an award-winning movie script and you give it to 3 directors, they're going to direct that movie differently. So at some point, the studio has to decide which director they're going to let do that. What's the same with your family members? Before you have that talk, you should choose a leader and understand we're all going to have little idiosyncrasies and do things differently, but as long as mom or dad's or your loved one's best interest is what you have as the end game, well, then step back, choose the leader, let them kind of run point, and then, you know, with everybody else's input, when you have this talk, especially with your parents or your loved ones that the care will be for, they should have a huge voice in this. And that's why it's important when you have the talk is to do it on a proactive level rather than a reactive level, and ask them, what do you want as we go down this road? You know, when it's time for home care, I mean, right on down to that thing that's always going to happen in everybody's life is when we pass on to the other side. That's going to happen. Right. So how do you want that all the way to that final step? What kind of music do you want played at your service? You know, whatever it is. But more importantly is, you know, a lot of seniors, they want to stay in their own home. So let's have that talk about how do we do that and how do we keep your dignity and respect in place, and you're still the boss. And it's the type of thing where home care is a non-medical service where we assist with anything that doesn't take a medical license to do. So, and then our goal.
There's a lot of things that you guys do. That was I was looking at this list. It was phenomenal because a lot of times you think, okay, when my parents or my grandparents are at a stage where they need a certain amount of care, but there's a lot of other factors that are involved, especially for nowadays. All of us, all of you are busier than we've ever been with trying to just keep up with our own lives, let alone try to assist somebody else.
Right. And what we forget, a lot of folks, our senior generation is a lot different than baby boomers and Generation X and Y because it's all about us. But the seniors are a very proud generation. They don't want to be a burden. They want their independence. And that's why we tell them, the families a lot of time, we're like a concierge service because we aren't nurses. When you help them with ADLs and IADLs that we'll go over in a little bit.
Chinese to me there.
It's like we're a concierge service. We're like your assistant. If you need something done around the home, if you need a helping hand doing something, we're not a nurse. We're not going to take over your life. You're a concierge to come in to give you a helping hand to get that end goal that you want, and that's to stay in your own home safely.
Yeah, so I'm going to make a comment to this because, as you know, I've had to reach out to you for advice at times because I'm dealing with all this family dynamic. I could tell you that almost everything that everybody's doing for my grandmother has non-medical.
Right.
It's non-medical, right? Helping someone bathe, helping someone change, helping someone brush their teeth, do all those things that seem really basic to us that we take for granted every single day. Those are things they need assistance with.
Absolutely.
Right? And reality is most of the time they don't need medical care. They just need a little hand.
Right. And that's what you want to prevent. You want to prevent that slip and fall. Right. I mean, if someone, in the age of 80 or 90, they break a hip, that's usually hard to bounce back from. So you don't want that slip and fall. You don't want that head trauma because they bang their head on the coffee table going down. So what kind of standby assist is needed? What kind of ambulation support is needed? So it's just a matter of helping you do the things that you want to do on a level that you can continue doing them.
All right. Well, we talked about this, before we got rolling, is that, there's a lot of things that other than needing help in a health ways, but, a lot of, I guess, those who need assistance, they can't drive anymore. They don't have the ability to, they almost feel trapped in their home, which is going to make them feel less adequate to just enjoy life. And you guys also help with, simple things like going shopping or paying bills or cleaning or doing things that they don't want to, again, burden others with.
Yeah, I talked to someone this week. I just saw him. I hadn't seen him in a few years, and he had some very serious surgeries, and he was, in a coma for a couple of months. And so I'm talking to him like, hey, great to see you. And he's about 80. And I'm like, I can't believe you're up and around and flew here from Mexico and all this and that, right? So we're having this conversation. He's like, yeah, and I was driving last week. And I'm like, you're driving? You're still driving? Like you went through this traumatic experience. You can't even walk to the bathroom and you're driving? So, that's one of those things to have. That's a really hard conversation. And Don, I had that with my grandfather a couple times. Like, you need to stop driving. Yeah. You're endangering others. Just forget about yourself. You're endangering other people, too.
And when they realize that you're enhancing their life and they're still the boss, I love analogies. It's like driving Miss Daisy. Miss Daisy didn't drive, but she told Morgan Freeman wherever she wanted to go, and they went. She was the boss. She got in the back of the car, and she had her independence, and Morgan Freeman drove her, Miss Daisy, wherever she wanted to go. And that's the same thing as, you're right, when you have that conversation about taking away the keys, boy, the approach has to be paramount. I mean, not only respecting their dignity and self-independence, but, it's kind of like you don't want to hurt yourself or someone else. This isn't going to restrict your independence. You can still be the boss, but let someone else do the driving for you.
And you definitely have service. You could drive people around with.
Oh, that's a huge part of what we do. Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Yeah. All of our caregivers, we've got the bonding and the insurance and the cars, and their cars are inspected before they start with us because transportation is a huge part of what we do for our clients.
I would imagine. All right. Again, you're here on the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show every Saturday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. And we're here with one of our favorite guests and also another radio show host right here on AM 1220 KHTS, Mr. Myles McNamara with Comfort Keepers in Home Care, talking about could be your parents, could be your grandparents, and how you can assist them. And when we come back, we're going to talk about something that's delicate. We're talking about when you have that talk. When is the time to have that talk with your parents or grandparents or your siblings on how to care for your elderly, basically, your aging parents or aging grandparents, because that's a tough thing, and you need to do it proactively rather than reactively. And when we come back, Myles McNamara is going to share why that's so important. Don't go away. We'll be right back.